Give me a B. Give me an A. Give me a D. What's that spell? You.
So, every bass player will at some point want to learn the notes on the fretboard, but it can seem oh so hard. And this isn't a beginner problem. Even experienced players can have issues with knowing the notes on the fretboard and learning them. So, today, let's look at 10 things that will help you navigate the fretboard better and find those notes when you need them. So, number 1, before anything, you need to know those open strings. On a 4 string from thickest to thinnest, we have E, A, D, G. It's tuned in fourths, so we start on a low E, work up 4 notes, E, F, G, A, then another 4 notes, A, B, C, D, and another 4 notes, D, E, F, G. If you have a 5-string bass, then you might have a low B string, so that would be B, E, A, D, G, and if you have a 6-string, you might have a high C, so that's going to be B, E, A, D, G, C. Most of you out there will probably have 4-string basses, so you could learn them as a mnemonic like Eddie ate dynamite goodbye, or every Alsatian dog growls, or you could just try practicing to some random note sheets. So you just read the note name and find the string. So there we have A, so the A string. There we have G, so the G string. I personally prefer this method of learning because mnemonics introduce an extra memorization that you don't really want. I've included a practice sheet in the lesson material over at the website, so you can check that out by using the link in the description. Number 2 is knowing the bass fretboard is split into 2 halves. The 12th fret, there with those 2 dots, is a repetition of the open strings. So the open strings, E, A, D, G, we move up to the 12th fret, E, A, D, G. So this means that you don't have to learn all of the notes for the entire fretboard. You only have to learn those from the open string up to that 11th fret. Once you learn those notes, you'll automatically know the notes above the 12th fret. So if you know this is a C at the 5th fret of the G string, you'll know that this is a C at the 17th fret of the G string. If you know that this is an A flat at the 4th fret of the E string, you'll know that this is an A flat at the 16th fret of the E string. All the notes are repeated, but how we locate them is all going to be made so much easier by our next tip, which is number 3, use the fret markers. The fret markers are going to allow you to keep your bearings no matter where you are on the fretboard. Yes, they help with knowing the fret that you're on, so 3rd, 5th, 7th fret, etc., which is good for tab, but if you learn the notes of each fret marker on each string, you're going to have a great start in learning the entire fretboard. So as a quick primer, here we have the 3rd, 5th, 7th and 9th fret markers. Some basses also have a marker at the 1st fret, so it's odd numbers, 3, 5, 7 and 9. Then we have the 12th fret with our double marker. As I mentioned before, this is the repeat of the open string, and then the fret markers repeat in the same way. So the 3rd fret has the same notes as the 15th fret, the 5th fret has the same notes as the 17th fret, and so on. To learn the notes of the markers, let's just label natural note markers, so no sharps or flats. To do this, we can work up from our 3rd fret on the E string, which is G. So if we move up in alphabetical order, we have G, A, and B. Then we move to the A string for C, D, and E. Then the D string, we have F, G, A, and B. Then the G string, C, D, and E. So we're using the first 3 markers on the E and A strings, then the 4 markers on the D string, and then just the 3 markers from the 5th fret there on the G string. So learn those fret markers first. G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E. Just learn that pattern of the fret markers. Notice that we're missing out this fret marker at the 9th fret on the E and A strings. That's because they're flats or sharps. Then we miss out this 3rd fret one on the G string because that's a B flat. So remember, we're just looking at the natural notes for now. To practice them, I've included some random note sheets for each string, so just work through the notes listed, finding each one in turn. So let's try the E string. So we've got a G, then a B, then an A, then a B, then an A, then a G, and so on. You don't have to play this in time, you don't have to work to a metronome or anything like that. You just look at the note name and then you just find it on the neck. Then we can try the A string. So we have E, then C, D, E, C, and so on. Then just continue through the sheets. Don't worry about fingerings or anything like that. Just find the notes on the sheet. After that, you can just add the open E string and the F at the first fret, and then the F and the G up at the 10th and 12th frets of the G string, and then we have a full set of notes from that open E. So we've got E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Once you have those notes memorized, you'll automatically know the fret markers above the 12th fret. So what's this 17th fret on the A string? It's a D, because it's the same as that 2nd fret marker there. How about the 19th fret on the D string? So we got this one here. Well, it's going to be an A, because we know it's the same as that 7th fret down here. And beyond the natural notes, if you know the natural note fret markers, finding the sharps and flats is a lot easier because we can just locate them based on the fret above or below a fret marker. But first, we need to look at sharps and flats in the next tip. So for tip number 4, we have enharmonic equivalency, or knowing about sharps and flats. So if we play a note a half step or a fret lower than a natural note, we get a flat. So G, here at the 3rd fret of the E string, there we have that G, we drop it 1 fret, and that's a G flat. If we raise a natural note by a half step or 1 fret, we get a sharp. So again, take that G at the 3rd fret of the E string, move it up a half step or 1 fret, and we have a G sharp. But you may have noticed something. If we raise the F by a half step to the 2nd fret of the E string, we have an F sharp. But that's also the same fret as a G flat. So which is it? Is it F sharp or G flat? Well, it's both or either. This is called enharmonic equivalency. We name notes based on context. If we were in the key of G major, that fret would most often apply to an F sharp, not a G flat. If we had a descending passing note between G and F, it would most likely be a G flat. If the chord in use at that point is a D major, it's going to be an F sharp because it's F sharp in the chord. If the chord in use is E flat minor, it's going to be a G flat because that has a G flat. There are many reasons for choosing a sharp or a flat, but all you need to know for now is that you'll need to view the notes around the natural notes as both sharps and flats. So if we want to know the note at the 4th fret of the A string, we've got the fret markers at the 3rd and 5th frets, C and D, so that 4th fret is either going to be C sharp or D flat. Then if we move up the octave, what note is the 13th fret on the D string? Well, the 12th fret is a D, so it's either going to be D sharp or it's going to be E flat. For tip number 5, if you don't know all the notes well enough yet, but you know a few, especially in the low area, you can use an octave pattern to work the higher notes out. So just in case you didn't know, this is an octave pattern. Take a note like a C at the 3rd fret of the A string, move up 2 frets and across 2 strings to the 5th fret of the G string, and that's an octave. So they're both a C, C and C. So it's a bit like 2 corners of a square. You've got this little square, little box shape, and we've got the 2 corners. Play around with that pattern for a while, because that's a very important shape. Then, let's say we need to find an A on the D string. Take an A at the 5th fret of the E string, play that octave, and there it is. There's the A. And if you're wondering what one of those notes are, so if we're playing, let's say, the 9th fret on the G string, we can play down the octave, and we can see that that's an E. Okay? So either way, you can work out the note. Bear in mind, this is pretty much a hack. It doesn't mean that you're actually improving at learning notes on the fretboard, but it can help with finding notes when you know only a few notes on the E and A strings. For tip number 6, never think about learning every note on the fretboard as one, huge pattern. We've already looked at how you only need to learn the notes from frets 1 to 11, but we can go one step further. To learn notes in a more systemized way, you should divide the fretboard into smaller positions. So instead of learning all of this, you should be looking to learn something more like this, and then something like this. When you learn to read music on a stringed instrument, you generally learn in positions. So why is this? Well, when you read a note on a staff, you have to decide which fret to play that note, and there's usually going to be a choice. So if we're reading an A, top line of the staff, we can play it here, 2nd fret of the G string, or we can play it here, 7th fret of the D string, or we can play it here. 12th fret of the A string, or we can play it here. 17th fret of the E string. So we've got multiple places for that pitch. So we can split the neck up from the 1st to the 11th frets into two main areas. We've got the 1st to the 5th fret, and then we've got the 6th fret up to the 11th fret. The 6th fret can be used in both positions depending on the context. So in position 1, as natural notes, we're going to have E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. That's our set of natural notes, or the notes of the C major scale. Then in that second area, we start at the 7th fret there for the B, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F. Okay, and this is just a repeat of this first area, but just shifted onto the next adjacent string. So if we take the A string there in that first area, B, C, D, we've just taken that B, C, D and moved it up here. So we've just moved up one hand position. So that gives us a new iteration of that single note. So B, C, D, E, F, G, E, F, G, A, B, C, A, B, C, and now we have D, E, F. So we've got that position and that position. If you limit your practice to 2 strings at any one time, you can use the random note sheets that are provided in the lesson material for testing yourself. So you can try the E and A strings. So D, then C, F, B, A, G, etc. So you can try that with the A and D strings, or the D and G strings, or moving up into that second position, we can work through those notes again. So D, C, F, B, A, G, etc. Sometimes you might have to include an extra string in there, like I did there with the A. I played that on the D string because I'd have had to have moved down or have moved up. Or you could just move up to that 12th fret or down to the 5th fret. Totally down to you, as long as you're looking at the notes on the page and then transferring them to the fretboard. It doesn't really matter. You know, you don't have to be too strict in any one position. As long as you're finding those notes, it's fine. Each position will usually contain one iteration of any one pitch, so we can be way more systemized in the approach to learning the notes. Focus on one position, learn those notes, then move to another position. Focusing on a single position is great as restricted practice because instead of trying to learn all the notes below the 12th fret, we're learning a smaller group. Focused practice with restrictions is always better practice. You have more specific goals and you're way more likely to retain smaller amounts of information for longer. Trying to do too much at any one time is going to stunt your progress, and that goes for any subject that you try to learn. So even if you limit yourself to 3 notes at any one time, that's better than trying to learn 13 of them. And all this talk of reading leads us to tip number 7, which is learning to read music. Learning to read is without doubt the best way to learn the notes on the fretboard. You learn in a systemized, positional way, and every time you read a note, you're being tested. You have a note on the page and you have to transfer that to the fretboard. C, find a C. G, find a G. Constant testing. Reading is a big subject to cover here, so if you want to learn in a systemized way, you can check out the Simple Steps to Sight Reading course over at the website. 25 hours of video, over 700 pages of exercises, and it takes you from absolute beginner reader to advanced professional sight reader. Use the coupon code READINGNOW for a 30% discount, and I guarantee that you'll learn the fretboard to a totally instinctive level. Now, if you're not reading yet and you have no desire to learn, the next best thing would be reading through chord charts, which is our tip number 8. Again, split the fretboard into positions like I showed earlier and read through any chord charts that you can get a hold of, even if it's just playing root notes. If your harmony and chord tone knowledge is lacking, it doesn't matter. As long as you're transferring notes from the page to the fretboard, that's all good practice. So let's say I have a chord chart like this. I can work my way through it in my own time, no drum tracks or metronome, just finding those notes. So C minor, play the C. D flat major, find the D flat. A flat, find the A flat. E flat, find the B flat. F, C. I'm being tested. Once you feel a little more confident in one position, try playing it in time, maybe at a higher tempo. So, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can take books like the Beatles Anthology or The Real Book or any one of the thousands of buskers books containing lead sheets for popular songs and just work through the chords written. You'll learn the fretboard and you'll also learn a little more about chord progressions. And now for tips 9 and 10, we have a couple of simple exercises that you can use to supplement all of the other tips that I've given here. Both of these tips make use of the cycle of fourths. So let's quickly learn that with my super fast cycle memory tip. So the cycle of fourths is just a sequence of consecutive fourth intervals. So take a C major scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, B. We work up 4 notes, C, D, E, F, C to F. That's a fourth. Then we build a fourth from the F. So F up to B flat, and then the B flat up to the E flat, and so on. And the sequence works around all 12 notes of the chromatic scale back to the starting point, C, and works really well for practicing pretty much anything. So that cycle sounds like this. C, F, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, B, E, A, D, G, and back to C. So that sounds like a bit of a mouthful, but I do have a quick way to learn it. So to memorize it, we just split it up into 3 parts. C and F, cycle of fourths. C for cycle, F for fourths. Then we have the word bead, like a bead of sweat, and we add a G onto the end. Sounds a bit weird, but don't worry about that for now. Bead, G. Repeat it, bead, G. First time we have flats, second time we have natural notes. B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, B, E, A, D, G. Put it all together. C, F, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, B, E, A, D, G. Done. Cycle of fourths. So now you have the cycle of fourths, we can apply it for tip number 9. So just take the E string and find those notes one at a time. So we begin with C, look for a C. Doesn't matter how long it takes. Have a look around. There it is at the 8th fret. Now find the F. Where's that? Well, it's at the 1st fret. Eventually, you should be able to work through all of them like this. So we've got C, F, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, B, E, A, D, G, and back to C. And you'll notice that sometimes I move up here, so we can take the E up here instead of down here. Doesn't really matter, as long as you're finding those notes. Now, as a great way of practicing, if you make a mistake or it takes a while to find one of them, start from the beginning again. So let's say you've got the C and the F down, then when we add the B flat, look for it. Where is it? Find a B, 7th fret, drop it. There's the B flat, okay? Start again. C, F, and now we know it's there, B flat. Again, you might forget it. Find it again, there it is. Start again. C, F, where's that B flat? Oh, there it is. Little bit of a delay. Start again. C, F, B flat. What's next? E flat. Where's the E flat? Well, we don't have one down here. It's going to be up here at the 11th fret. Bit of a weird one. Let's start again. C, F, B flat, E flat. Okay? Any delay, start again. Round and round. After the E string, you can move to the A string. So C, F, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, etc. Then you can move to the D string, again, C, F, B flat, E flat, A flat, G string, C, F, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, etc. Then for tip number 10, we have an expansion on that exercise. For this exercise, we play scales and arpeggios, or pretty much anything, through the same sequence. So let's take a major scale as an example. I guess you all know a major scale. So you take that pattern and just play it through the cycle with root notes on that E string. So C major, F major, B flat, E flat, A flat. Then we can try with root notes on the A string. So C major, F, B flat, E flat. Then you could try with a natural minor scale, major arpeggio, minor arpeggio. In fact, try practicing every shape that you learn through the cycle of fourths. This way of applying the cycle to other areas of music is going to make things a lot more interesting while still working on those fretboard notes. And now, if you want to work on how to play those notes more efficiently, check out this video where I work through the pros and cons of the 1 finger per fret system. Should you use it Or is it a waste of time? All's going to be revealed, so go check it out, and I'll see you next week.